Welcome to ODT Sports Chat's new show. We've just started a new show and we're just starting it tonight, and we're coming out to the Edgar Centre, and we are talking to Peter Drew, the GM of Basketball in Otago. So good to see you, mate.
Pleasure to be here, Paul.
Mate, so look, just down below, we've actually got live basketball down here beside us. We've got the Falcons are playing the South Pac Magic in a premier game, and this is the first game of the season.
This is the season opener, so that's the first game of Women's A grade to kick off the 2024 season. We'll see what happens.
Right, mate, I'll just keep an eye on it. They're looking quite tidy. So, look, mate, we really want to... I know that the Nuggets are underway, and the Hoihu, we'll talk about them later because they're now coming in later on. Their season's been put back. We'll talk about that. But we're really here to talk about grassroots. We're talking about grassroots basketball. So let's start, since we've got the woman out there, let's start with the woman. So how many, in the senior grades, how many women's teams have we got for a start in total?
So we've got 10 women's club teams that are just kicking off tonight. So this is the first round of the season. And the men start on Saturday, and they've got 30-something teams in the men's club.
Right, so in the senior, in the top grade, there's 4 women's teams, is that correct?
That's right, yep.
And in the men's, we've got, there's six senior men's sides. 6
men's teams in A grade, and then a number of other grades below that, yeah.
Okay, so with the men's, they're playing at the same time as, obviously, because the Nuggets are already underway. They've played a couple of games, they've won 2. Does that make it hard, or is there good numbers in those men's grades so it doesn't affect you too much having all those top players out?
Well, look, we always want those top players playing in our club competition. So at some point later in the season, those Nuggets players do come back in at the latter end of the season, and when they can during the season. But for most of the season, they're off. On Nuggets duties, and the other players come in and fill their places in A grade. We've got good depth in our A grade competition, so the competitions are still really strong. But obviously, when the Nuggets players come back in, that's great for the competition. We get as many of them back in, when it comes to the playoffs, so that we've got those competitions as strong as possible. And we want to have our best players out on court running around. For the spectators to watch and see the standard of basketball that we've got here. Okay, and with the women's now, talk to me about that. So there's been some major announcements in the last few days around women. I'm not really over the top of that, but the Hoiho season is now going to be from normally at this time of the year as well, but it's now been put back to October, December now. Yeah, certainly it's going to be back later in the year, and that's for a number of reasons. I think it links into having the best opportunities with Sky Sports and television coverage, and linking into the overall schedule of what's happening in other countries. So just trying to find the best place in the calendar to give the new women's, the Tauahi League, the best possible opportunity to have its own space really, and to get a high profile, because that's a competition that's going high level. Last season we had 9 women's NBA players playing in that league, which is unbelievable. And with the payment structure that's coming into that women's league now, actually getting paid more than the men's NBL now, which is amazing and brilliant for the women's game. So there's a really exciting opportunity for that women's Tauahi League to really develop a great profile for women's basketball in Otago and in New Zealand. And for that to be a real showcase for young girls starting basketball, seeing that, and having, for the first time ever, having a really good professional pathway of women's basketball in New Zealand and Otago. So that's a really exciting part of basketball development. Okay, well let's get on to some of the big things that I'm really interested in. You were telling me off air that we've got 200 primary school teams playing, and we haven't started yet, and we've got 160 secondary school teams. Mate, those numbers seem absolutely unbelievable. It's huge. So basketball is the biggest school sport in Otago, so the numbers are really big, which is great. And the other thing is that they're growing really quickly. So just last season, the number of teams playing primary school basketball increased by 20% just in last season alone. So the numbers, particularly in primary schools, intermediates, are rocketing up. So it's a huge growth sport, and which is great for the sport. Causes a few logistical issues. Well, mate, it must be an absolute nightmare. So we're going to come out and film that probably in the next time we come out and see you. So when are these primary school kids? Do they starting at what age? They're starting at 5 years of age. Yep. they start.
Surely they're not shooting at one of these 10-foot hoops.
No, they start from year one at school. Yep, we get them on the court nice and early. The thing is, we modify the game for them depending on what age they're at. So, those year 1 and 2 youngsters who are just trying to run around and have a bit of fun with their mates. We bring the hoops down. We play them on a small court, just 4 aside, so that they've got they have a better game. And then as they get older, the game gets bigger, the hoop gets a bit higher, court gets bigger. And they go more and more towards the full game, but we start them off small. Right.
So those kids are there. So the primary school with the 200 teams, they're playing is it 2 days a week they play?
Yeah. So our primary and intermediate competitions go on Mondays and Thursdays. So we split it across 2 days because we've just got too many teams. But on Thursdays when we have our primary school comps, there's a lot of kids. There's about 1,000 kids that come through on that day after school. So that keeps us on our toes to try and organise all of that.
Okay, and then when they're heading secondary school, they're now playing on a full size court, and they're playing with the normal 10-foot hoop. So tell me about that, because with 160 teams, you won't be able to fit them all because there's other sports going on here. So where the hell do you play all these games?
Yeah, it's a challenge for us. So on Fridays is secondary school basketball, and we get as many of those teams in here at the Edgar Centre as possible, because this is obviously the main venue and the best place to play. But because of the numbers, we have to spread the rest of them across 10 or 11 school gyms across Dunedin. So that makes it logistically a little bit of a challenge for us and for the schools. But it is what it is, and it's just great that we've got that many kids wanting to play basketball. And our job is just to try and make that possible and give them those opportunities in the best possible way.
So, mate, how do you organise, especially in that secondary school sphere? How do you officiate? How have you got enough referees to officiate these games?
That's a good question. The referees and the officials is probably one of our biggest challenges, and so we're trying to develop different strategies for getting referees coming through, and we actually get some of the youngsters even at primary school to help us to referee some of the other primary school games, and that's part of our young referee development program. So, and that gets them good experience, good sort of personal development. But it's always a challenge, and other sports have the same challenge to try and get enough referees out. And when we've got so many teams going at once, that's one of our biggest challenges.
So, mate, tell me about this. I mean, you'll have a bit of an idea now. So why? I mean, basketball has exploded all across New Zealand, and I can see that in your numbers with 360 teams, school teams in Otago. So why is basketball so popular in New Zealand now? Is it all because they're all watching NBA, or is the national leagues, or is that helping, or is it all driven by American sport?
Oh, it's a combination of all of those things. The NBA definitely. Basketball is a hugely popular sport globally, and when you've got the superstars in the NBA and the kids have got access to that, watching it on their phones these days. So that for sure, that sort of profile globally helps. But then the other things that go into it are, we're getting huge coverage of New Zealand basketball on Sky Sports now. So there's a huge amount of basketball on TV, and then alongside that, you've got things like the fact that basketball, we've got a nice roof over our head here. So in the winter, when let's face it, the Dunedin weather's not always what we'd like it to be.
No.
So in the depths of winter, we've got a roof over our head. Yes, it's not warm in here in the middle of winter, we've got to say that, but there is a roof over our head, it's dry. Parents can get a cup of tea or coffee and watch their kids, and that actually makes a big difference. And things like this, you're not getting head injuries to a huge extent in basketball, and that in other sports we know unfortunately is a bit of an issue. So there's lots of different things that are making basketball. It's a fast, entertaining, fun game, and in modern society with the kids these days, that's what they're looking for.
And just back on with this 360 team, what's the transition like once they get out of secondary school? Are we getting them back in? I mean, obviously you're struggling a wee bit with your women's numbers, but that'll change obviously. But is there like most of the sports, is there a real fall off after secondary school?
Yeah. There's definitely one of our big challenges is the drop off rate from once they finish school, particularly in the girls, and that this is an issue for all sports across the board. But for sure, it's an issue for basketball. So trying to find ways of when they finish high school of having meaningful activities for whatever level that they're at. And we're putting in competition structures that are trying to, there's under 20s competitions. There's a new competition that sits underneath the NBL. That's for the better players, obviously. But we've got to find other ways of, reducing that drop off and increasing retention with the new game of 3x3. Has got good opportunity for that, where it's something different.
And they're doing that. There's worldwide competitions for that 3x3 basketball now, isn't there?
Yeah, 3x3 is a big developing sport globally. It's a bit like sevens rugby, and it's becoming a major sport in its own right. So that's one of the things that we're trying to work on to grow locally here. We've still got some work to do on that, but that's a sport that the kids love playing it. And the adults do as well. So if there's an opportunity to bring that in as an additional sort of format to keep more people in the game, then that's definitely something we're trying to work on.
Okay, and just to finish, mate, because look, the Nuggets have started, as we know, and they've had 2 good wins. I watched them on TV playing I think they played the Manawatu Jets the other night. So look, I mean, talk to me about crowd numbers just to finish, because I understand that it looks like there's a really good crowds turning up to watch the Nuggets. So what are we talking numbers wise?
Yep, the fan base for the Nuggets and as the Hoi Hoi develop, their fan base picked up a lot last season as well. So, like, I would say the Nuggets are right up there as one of the biggest fan bases in the NBL, and the Hoi Hoi. It's early days in the women's NBL, but we'll be definitely striving to have them as a huge fan base as well. So, look, down here, the Nuggets in particular, having won the NBL a couple of times in the last 4 years, they're pretty popular with the Dunedin community, aren't they? So the fans do come out in big numbers.
Right. So you're talking a couple of thousand a game?
Yeah, last season I think there were a number of games where crowd numbers were over 2,000, and then for the Hoi Hoi in the Women's League, those numbers were increasing rapidly last season as well. So that's we want to push those numbers up as well.
Right, mate. Well, look, thanks for chatting to us today. Look, that's our first look at basketball. We will be back. Now, we'll come along, I think, next time, once we talk about this mayhem with 200 in fact, primary school teams. We might come along and stage our second session at that. So thanks for talking to us, mate, and hope the season goes really, really well.
Thanks very much, Paul.